It all started with a young orphan, his trusty wooden stick and a dream. And now, that same young orphan is a general riding into battle, commanding tens of thousands of soldiers with the great General Oki's glaive in hand. But how did this young boy become such a great leader? For us to answer that question, we need to look at young Shin. Or in other words, Phase 1. Shin's first campaign in KO was the first time we had the opportunity to see him lead. Though he was only a foot soldier at this point, Shin still led well, just not in name. His leadership style could not have been clearer. Using raw ambition alone, he opened up a path for everybody to break through what initially seemed like an impenetrable way spear wall. This is the main pattern, using his consistently elevated emotions to maintain high morale by slaying countless enemies, and even enemy captains. The running theme is that everything seems to be a miracle. The 5-man squad is holding on by a thread because of Shin's leadership. Another thing to note is that from the very beginning, it was very easy to like Shin. His aggressive leadership from the front shows them how much he cares. Shin constantly putting his life on the line for his dream without sacrificing his companions for it pushes everyone into a family-like bond. Now, Phase 2, mid-tier Shin, or in other words, B-tier, C-tier Shin. The next upgrade for Shin in terms of leadership is during Baiyo, and actually right before that. For training, Oki throws Shin into a stateless area, numbering 100 people. Perfect for the now 100-man commander Shin. Only through real battle can he learn the difficulty of leadership, the strength of unity onto Baiyo. This is the first time Shin is an official leader, leading an official 100-man unit. His first speech does not disappoint, capturing everybody's hearts immediately. If we know one thing, Shin never fails to inspire an insane level of morale, naturally contributing heavily to that strength of unity Oki was talking about. The strength of unity really shines through when Oki assigns the first mission to Shin and his unit. Shin acknowledges that although his unit of 100 men is like a bean, among tens of thousands of soldiers, a bean still has a bean strength. All it takes is everyone moving together and concentrating on a weak point, taking advantage of their small size to then slip through an opening. He finally gets a real taste of that difficulty of leadership that Oki was talking about. It isn't always going to be epic speeches and glorious charges into battle. The unit faces a crossroads where half of them must stay behind so that the other half is able to pursue the Xiao general. Just as Shin's men trust him, he must also trust in his unit to perform as well. If that scale wasn't enough, Shin ended up losing a close comrade in Bito, once again experiencing that difficulty of leadership. Oki said it best: the path to general is one of sacrifice, and Shin honestly indirectly acknowledged this before Oki even said it. It shows crazy growth, that Shin already knows that he must keep moving forward, aligning with Oki's sentiment that overcoming such trials would lead to strength, to that growth. Phase 3, current Shin, or in other words, A-tier, S-tier Shin. The latest upgrade for Shin is learning how to show restraint and make the calls that only a great general would. Everyone always complains that Shin is always emotional, always shouting, but when it's time to perform, our boy does not let us down. On their campaign toward Northern Xiao, Shin is the one surprisingly that moves to protect Kanki when his life is threatened. The most obvious example of his growth is the difference in his actions back during Kokyo Hills compared to what he did here. During Kokyo Hills, Shin was actually the one that threatened Kanki's life during their confrontation. Back then, Shin could not contain his emotions and could only think about eliminating this villain from the world. Current Shin understands that Kanki is a great general. Not only do we need him to win, it's Shin's duty. It's not as though Shin is completely unwarranted for reacting this way. Both times, his reaction did follow a Kanki massacre. Kokyo Hills, Kanki slaughtered and violated every Xiao citizen in the area. Northern Xiao, he beheaded tens of thousands of surrendered soldiers. If it went for Denyu's life being in danger, Shin might have really pulled the trigger and let Kyokai slay him. This time around, he is the one insisting on going out of his way to protect Kanki. Don't get me wrong, Shin did want to beat Kanki's ass this time around too. The difference is, now he listens to reason. He isn't a 5,000 commander hothead anymore. He is a general with major responsibility. It's not simply Kanki the villain that needs help. It's a great general of Qin that needs the Heishin unit to defend them while they recover. That's the difference in mentality that current Shin recognizes that mid-tier Shin would have never accepted. After the fact, Shin even calms down and realizes that Kanki didn't send him away to prevent Shin from stopping him. Sending Shin to AQ was purely strategic to defeat Kocho. Shin also acknowledges that it isn't his place to stop Kanki. That's what the King of Qin is for. There's nowhere that Sei wouldn't say anything. Shin really has come a long way. It doesn't stop there. Currently, during Han, this is the most mature Shin we've ever seen. We thought it was impressive when Shin showed restraint against Kanki, but what about a Han citizen coming at him with a knife? At no point was Shin angry at him. The entire time, he did not force the old man to do anything, not even put his knife down. Shin was empathetic the entire time. That has to be true restraint. He even said that the old man could keep trying to stab him over and over. Shin would just stop him every time. No arguing, no convincing. Waiting for the old man to set aside the blade on his own terms. Here we go. In terms of making the big calls. A great general level call. A big boy call. This one call by Shin when they got surrounded in Northern Shao was legendary, and at this point, it should be iconic. At the time, it may have just seemed like this instinctual call only saved the He, Shin, and Gakukai units. In hindsight, the reason why it should be so highly regarded is because it was a massive call that ended up saving two of the current great general level armies. These two are now main representatives of Shin's military might. If we flash back to right before this arc, during Western Shao, Shin makes a huge call that changes the entire outcome of the battle. It is an instinctual and leadership masterclass, since he is in all but name the commander of the right wing, leading it to success. This is probably the first time Shin is in a leadership role that could make or break the battlefield. If his decision alone to hold off the reserves didn't work out, it would have been devastating, but it did. Shin is now making the big calls, the great general level calls. We bring ourselves to the biggest call of them all. Shin, as the vice commander for our Han campaign, declares that he will take the heads of Han's generals, and he does just that. It might be the first time that Shin calls out that he will take down one of the most important generals in the campaign and actually does it. In Sanya, it was Renpa, didn't do it. Who knows how many times Raboki was called out, didn't do it. And now Shin, true to his word, slays Hakio Koku, the second greatest general in all of Han, a man alongside Rakur Khan that pushed back the legendary Renpa. This is likely his most important kill to date. I would say a little more so than Hoken, because Shao has other weapons like Shibisho still. It is an achievement of leadership because it shows all the new Qin recruits that this General Shin is someone that is most reliable. Now, the real question is whether or not Shin is finally on par with the other great generals of Qin. If it's a back and forth discussion as to whether or not his skills are up there with them, we can agree to disagree. Though there can be no doubt that Shin is the most reliable and important general to the entire state of Qin. Not only does he contribute martially, he is important to unifying all of China in a political way, catering to the people. If you made it to the end, thank you for tuning in. I would appreciate it if you guys left a like and a comment, share this video with a friend, and subscribe for more videos like this.